Welcome, students. This is going to be a video on multi-step equations. Our learning target for this video is I can solve multi-step equations by distributing and combining like terms. So hopefully you guys completed your Desmos activities that helped you, provided some videos on how to distribute and how to combine like terms, as well as some practice problems, because you're going to be using that now. And so here we have the steps. So we're just going to go right into the steps. We have 5 steps, but steps 3 through 5 are not new to us. We already know how to do this because we did this when we were solving 2-step equations. Now what we're adding is step 1 and 2. So step 1 is going to be distribute. So if you have parentheses and a number directly outside of it, make sure you distribute that number to everything inside the parentheses. That's step 1. Once you distribute, we have step 2, which is to combine like terms on each side. So don't worry about moving things to the opposite side yet. You need to combine like terms first for step 2. Now, step 3, this is once we have simplified each side of the equal sign, we can go ahead and move on to step 3, where we're now going to work on moving the smallest variable to one side. And so this is what we did with 2-step equations. So we're moving the variable over so that we only have the variable on one side. And then step 4 is to add and subtract the constants, because remember, you want to move them to the opposite side. And then step 5 is to multiply or divide by the coefficient when the variable has a coefficient. Okay, and so remember, there's a lot of vocab words in here. Remember, a constant is the number without a variable. It's a fixed value. A coefficient is the number that is directly in front of the variable. And yeah, and then everything else we already went through. All right. Oh, and the variable, obviously, is the unknown. It's what we're trying to find, and it's normally represented by a letter such as X or Y. So here we have the first example. It's the equation 4 parentheses X plus 4 parentheses minus 6 equals -2. The first thing I want to do is just quickly remind myself of my steps. The first step that I see there on the side, it says step 1 is to distribute. And so if you have parentheses and you have a number that is directly next to the parentheses, you want to go ahead and distribute that number to everything inside. So that means that this 4 is going to multiply the X, and the 4 is also going to multiply the 4. So I'm going to distribute. Remember, when you distribute, you are multiplying each term inside. So 4 times X is 4X. 4 times 4 is 16, positive 16. And then I copy down, bring the rest of that down. Okay, so now I'm left with 4X plus 16 minus 6 equals -2. Okay, great. Now step 2 is to combine like terms on each side. So let me see if I have any like terms. 4X is one of the terms, and that term has one X variable. So I'm going to check on that same side. Do I have any other terms with the variable X and an exponent of 1? No, I don't. Okay, so let me switch colors now. The next term, is a positive 16. This does not have a variable, so that means that anything else without a variable on that side of the equal sign will be its like term. So in this case, it is -6. Now, if I have the same thing, if I have the same color, that means I'm going to go ahead and combine those like terms because they're like terms. So in the case of 4X, I don't have anything that color, so I'm just going to bring 4X down. And then I have positive 16 and -6. They are like terms because, as you can see, I identified them by using the color green. So I would go ahead and combine them. But because they have different signs, one's positive, one's negative, different signs subtract. So I would get 16 minus 6, which is a positive 10. And then bring down that -2. Okay, now I have a 2-step equation. So I'm on to step 3. Step 3 says to move the smallest variable to one side. Well, in this example, I only have the variable on one side. So step 3 is taken care of for me. Step 4 says to add or subtract the constants. So in this case, I want to get rid of this positive 10. The positive 10, which is right here, I need to get rid of it because it's on the same side as the x, and I want x by itself to end up by itself. So how do I get rid of a positive 10? Well, I need to subtract 10 on both sides. So let me draw this out. I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides because that's the inverse operation. When I do that on this side, I get 4x. 10 minus 10 is 0. Bring down the equal sign. And then negative 2 and negative 10, always think of when you're solving equations, just think of everything as being combined, okay? And I just look at the signs in front. So in this case, it's a negative 2 and a negative 10. So I would get negative 12, okay? After that, I get 4x equals negative 12. So I'm on to step 5, which is multiply or divide by the coefficient. The coefficient here is 4. So I would divide both sides by 4. And 4 divided by 4 is just 1, so I can cancel those out. I would end up with x equals negative 12 divided by 4. Okay, this is division. They have different signs, so I know I'm going to get a negative answer. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. So the answer there is negative 3. All right, let's look at an example where we have variables on both sides. Here we have the next example. It says solve 5 minus 7k equals negative 4 parentheses k plus 1 minus 3. Okay, I have a whole bunch going on here. Let me remind myself of my steps. You can see them there. Step 1 is to distribute. Step 2, combine like terms. And then continue with the steps that we already know from 1 and 2 steps. Okay, so step 1 is to distribute. So look at your equation. Do you have parentheses with a number directly outside? Yes, we do, and it is the negative 4. So I am going to distribute that negative 4 to both terms inside. And remember, when I distribute, that means that I'm going to multiply what's outside by everything inside. So I get negative 4 times k, which is negative 4k. Negative 4 times a positive 1 is negative 4. And then bring down that minus 3, and then we didn't do anything to this side, so I'm just going to bring that all down. All right, so I have this equation now. I'm done with step 1. Step 2 is to combine like terms. So I take it one side at a time. Let me look at this side first, 5 minus 7k. Do I have any like terms there? Well, I have one constant and one term with the variable. So no, there are no like terms. Let's look at this side. I have negative 4k. Do I have anything else with a k? No, I don't. So let's move on to the next term. Negative 4. That's a constant. Do I have any more constants? Yes, I do. Negative 4 and negative 3 are both constants, so they are like terms. Now, since there's nothing over on this side, I'm just going to bring all of that down. 5 minus 7k equals negative 4k. And negative 4 and negative 3, they have same signs. Okay, so I'm combining like terms here, but they have same signs, so same signs add and keep. That becomes a negative 7. All right, from here, you should have had a little enough practice to know what you should do next. So step 3 says to move the smallest variable to one side. So look at your variables, negative 7k, the terms with the variables, and ask yourself, which one is smaller, negative 7k or negative 4k? Well, negative 7k is smaller because it's further down the number line. I want to move the smaller one because that means I'll end up hopefully with a positive number, with a positive variable term at the end. Okay, so I'm going to add 7k to both sides. Let's go ahead and see what happens with everything else. First of all, we bring down the 5. Negative 7k plus 7k is just 0. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to move my variable. Negative 4k plus 7k is 3k. Different sign, subtract. And then you bring down the negative 7. So now I have this equation 5 equals 3k minus 7. I'm on to step 4, which is to add or subtract the constants. You want to add or subtract by the constant that is with the variable, because remember, you want the variable by itself. So I am going to work with this constant here, the negative 7. How do I move a negative 7 to the opposite side? Well, I have to do the opposite. So I add 7 to both sides. Okay, let's see what happens. 5 plus 7 is 12. So I get 12 here equals, you bring down the 3k. And then negative 7 plus 7 is just 0. So now I'm left with 3k equals 12, or 12 equals 3k. I'm on to step 5. Step 5 is to multiply or divide by the coefficient. So it says multiply or divide because you want to do whatever's going to make that coefficient move to the opposite side. In this case, 3 and k are being multiplied, and I know I have to do the opposite. So I'm going to divide by 3. Divide by 3 on both sides. These 3's will cancel out, and 12 divided by 3 is 4, so I get 4 is equal to k, or k is equal to 4 as my answer. All right, let's look at another example. For this example, let me remind you of the steps. We have the equation 3 parentheses x minus 5 plus 1 equals 2 plus x. Go ahead and try the equation on your own. Figure out what the value of x is by solving for x, and then press resume, and we will go over it. All right, so hopefully you were able to try this problem out on your own. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go through this one a little more quickly. The first thing I want to do is distribute according to step 1. So I have a 3 outside the parentheses. I'm going to distribute by multiplying. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And then bring down the rest. Plus 1 equals 2 plus x. Now I'm on to step 2. So I did step 1. Step 2 is to combine like terms on each side. So let me look at this side first. Do I have anything else with an x on this side of the equal sign? No. So there is no like term for that one. Do I have any other constants? Like negative 15 is a constant. Do I have anything else that is a constant? Yes, I do. I have a positive 1. So I'm left with 3x. And then I combine my like terms here, negative 15 and a positive 1. That's going to be negative 14 equals, bring down the rest, 2 plus x. All right, I completed step 2. I'm on to step 3, which is move the smallest variable to one side. What's smaller, 3x or x? X is smaller. Remember, with x, there's always an imaginary 1 there. You can add it if you want, if that helps you, okay? But just know that x is really 1x. So I want to get rid of that 1x. So I know that I need to do the opposite. The opposite is to subtract 1x on both sides. All right. Now, once I subtract, I want to go ahead and see what I get. So I get 3x minus 1x. That's going to become 2x. I got to bring down the negative 14, bring down the equal sign, bring down the 2, and then positive 1x minus 1x is just 0. So I accomplished my goal. I now only have one variable on one side. Now I want to move the constants by adding or subtracting the constants. In this case, I want to get rid of the constant that is next to, on the same side as the variable, not next to, on the same side. And that constant is the negative 14. To get rid of a negative 14, I'm going to add 14 to both sides. And let's see what we get when we do that. So over here on this side, 2x drops down. Negative 14 plus 14 is just 0. Bring down the equal sign, and 2 plus 14 is 16. I completed step 4. Step 5, multiply or divide by the coefficient. Again here, they're currently being multiplied, so I know I need to do the opposite. I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. And when I divide by 2 here on this side, 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So those cancel out. I'm left with x equals, and then 16 divided by 2, which is 8. Okay, so we completed step 5. I got my answer. If I wanted to check my answer, I can go ahead and plug this value into my original equation up here and see if I get a true statement. All right, so let's go ahead and clear that one. Okay, so here we have the next example, which is y minus 5 equals 3 minus 9y plus 2. Let me remind you of the steps. And at this point, go ahead and pause the video. And then once you think you have your answer, resume and we will go over it. So hopefully you were able to try this problem out on your own. We're going to go ahead and go over it. Step 1 is to distribute. So do I have parentheses? Yes, I do, over on this side. So I'm going to distribute a negative 9. The reason why it's negative is because I see that the negative that's in front of the 9 belongs to the 9, okay? So when I distribute that, negative 9 times y is negative 9y. Negative 9 times 2 is negative 18. Then I'm going to bring down the rest. I don't like how crooked that equal sign is. All right, so I have y minus 5 equals 3 minus 9y minus 18. So I completed step 1, check. Step 2, combine like terms. On this side, y minus 5, I do not have any like terms because I only have one term with a y and then one constant. Those are not like terms. On this side, I do have like terms. I don't have anything else with a y, but I do have something that is a constant. 3 is a constant and negative 18 is a constant. So those two are like terms. I can combine them to make this a more simplified equation. So let me just copy this side down. Y minus 5 equals, when I combine 3 minus 18, different sign subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. So I get negative 15. Then I still have that negative 9y there. Don't forget about that. Bring it down. All right, I completed step 2. Step 3, whoops. Step 3 is to move the smallest variable to one side. So what is smaller? A y, a positive y, or negative 9y? Hopefully you know that negative 9y is smaller. So I want to get rid of that negative 9y. Want to move it over to the opposite side. So to move a negative 9y, I do the opposite, which is a positive 9y to both sides. When I do that, over on this side, I have y plus 9y, which is 10y. Remember, this has an imaginary one there, an invisible one. Then I didn't do anything to this negative 5, so you got to bring it down. You got to bring down the equal sign. You got to bring down your negative 15. And then over here, I have negative 9y plus 9y, which is just 0. So I'm left with 10y minus 5 equals negative 15. Okay, check. I completed step 3. Step 4 is to add or subtract the constants. Remember the constants, whatever does not have a variable. So I want to get rid of the constant that is on the same side as my variable because my goal is to get the variable by itself. So how do I get rid of a negative 5? I need to add 5 to both sides. When I add 5 to both sides, I got to bring down the 10y. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0, so they cancel out. Bring down the equal sign, and then negative 15 plus 5 is negative 10. Step 4 is done. Check. Now my final step is step 5, which is to multiply or divide by the coefficient. Again here, the numbers are being multiplied, so I got to do the opposite, which is divide by 10 on both sides. When I divide by 10 on both sides, 10 divided by 10 is just 1, so I'm left with y equals negative 10 divided by 10, which is negative 1. Hopefully that's what you got. Remember, you can also check your work by plugging that value into your original equation and make sure that you get a true statement. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with this one. I'm not going to go over this one, so try it on your own. Let me know if you have any questions or any trouble with it at all, and have a great day. Hopefully this video helps you.